Every time you type a domain name, your computer secretly looks up a number behind the scenes. In this episode, we break down exactly how that lookup works, who handles it, and why the whole system is faster than you might expect. Humans remember names like google.com, but routers and servers only understand numbers called IP addresses. DNS, the domain name system, is the global phone book that sits in between. You hand it a name, it hands back a number, and your computer can finally make a connection. Without DNS, you would need to memorize a raw IP address for every site you visit. Your browser does not do DNS itself. It calls a tiny piece of code inside your operating system called the stub resolver. The stub resolver barely does any work. It simply forwards your question to a recursive resolver somewhere on the network. The recursive resolver is the engine that actually chases down the answer and sends it back up the chain to your waiting application. The recursive resolver is configured on your device, usually automatically via DHCP. By default, your ISP assigns one, which can log your queries. Many users override this with a public resolver like Google at 8.8.8.8 or Cloudflare at 1.1.1.1. All three do the same job, but differ in privacy policies, speed, and geographic coverage. Recursive resolution means one party does all the work on your behalf. Your stub resolver asks the recursive resolver and then waits. The recursive resolver iteratively contacts each level of the DNS hierarchy one at a time, root server first, then TLD, then the authoritative server. It collects the final answer and delivers a single clean response back to your stub resolver. At the very top of DNS are 13 root name server addresses operated by different organizations worldwide. They do not know the IP of your domain. Instead, they return a referral. Go ask the TLD servers responsible for that suffix. For Google.com, the root says, go talk to the .com TLD servers. They are the starting point for every uncached lookup on Earth. The TLD server handles an entire suffix like .com, .org, or .io. It does not store IP addresses either. Its job is to return the address of the authoritative name server for a specific domain. When the recursive resolver asks about google.com, the .com TLD server replies with the address of Google's own authoritative name servers, pointing the resolver to the final stop. The authoritative name server is where the actual answer lives. It is the server that the domain owner controls. It stores the zone file containing all the DNS records for that domain. When the recursive resolver reaches it and asks for google.com, it returns the real IP address. This is the only server in the chain that gives a definitive non-referral answer. Put it all together, your browser asks the stub resolver, which asks the recursive resolver. The recursive resolver has no cached answer, so it asks a root server, which points to the .com TLD server, which points to the authoritative name server, for example, .com. The authoritative server returns the IP. The resolver hands it back up the chain, and your browser finally opens a connection. 6 hops, typically under 100 milliseconds. Modern browsers keep their own small DNS cache. When you visit a site, the browser stores the returned IP alongside the record's TTL. On your next visit, within that TTL window, the browser skips the entire lookup and uses the cached address directly. This makes repeat navigation nearly instant. You can usually inspect and flush this cache from the browser's internal diagnostic pages. Below the browser sits the operating system's own DNS cache, sometimes called the DNS Client Service or NSCD. All applications on the machine share this cache. If your browser already cleared its own cache but the OS still has the record, the stub resolver returns the cached answer immediately without ever hitting the network. Flushing the OS cache is a common troubleshooting step when a DNS change is not showing up. The recursive resolver also caches every answer it fetches. Because thousands of users share the same resolver, the first person to look up a popular domain pays the full resolution cost. Every subsequent user gets the answer from cache in milliseconds. This is why public resolvers like Cloudflare and Google are so fast for popular sites. The record is almost always already cached from a previous lookup by someone else. Every DNS record carries a TTL, or time to live, measured in seconds. A TTL of 300 means caches may hold this record for 5 minutes before discarding it. Once the TTL expires, the cached entry is removed, and the next request triggers a fresh lookup all the way to the authoritative server. Domain owners balance low TTLs for flexibility against high TTLs for speed and reduced resolver load. The A record is the most fundamental DNS record type. It maps a domain name to a 32-bit IPv4 address like 93.184. The KA record does the same thing for 128-bit IPv6 addresses. Most domains publish both. Your operating system and browser decide which to use based on your network's support for IPv6. If both are available, IPv6 is generally preferred. A key name record is an alias. Instead of returning an IP address, it returns another domain name, telling the resolver to go look up that name instead. This lets you point many subdomains at one canonical name and update the IP in one place. The resolver follows the chain until it hits an A or OA record. You cannot use a key name at the root of a domain, only on subdomains. DNS holds more than just IP addresses. MX records tell email servers where to deliver mail for a domain. NS records declare which servers are authoritative for the zone. TXT records store arbitrary text and are heavily used for domain ownership verification. SPF records that authorize senders, and DKIM keys that let receivers verify email signatures. A single domain can have multiple MX records with priority numbers to set delivery order. When a domain does not exist, the authoritative server returns a response code called NX domain, meaning no such domain. Resolvers cache this negative result too for the duration specified in the zone's SOA record minimum TTL. Subsequent lookups for the same non-existent domain are answered instantly from the negative cache without hitting the network. This prevents repeated expensive queries for mistyped or non-existent names. Anycast is a routing technique where the same IP address is announced from multiple physical locations. Network routing automatically directs your query to the nearest data center based on BGP routing metrics. Cloudflare's 1.1.1.1 and Google's 8.8.8.8 both use Anycast. You always reach the same logical service, but you physically land on a server that may be only milliseconds away, dramatically reducing query latency. Smart authoritative servers can return different A records depending on where the query comes from. By examining the IP of the recursive resolver, the authoritative server infers the user's region and returns the IP of the nearest or least loaded data center. This is DNS-based geo-routing and load balancing. Services like AWS Route 53 and Cloudflare DNS use this technique to route users to optimal endpoints without any application layer logic. Traditional DNS queries travel in plain text over UDP port 53, visible to anyone on the network. DNS over TLS and DNS over HTTPS encrypt the query, so your ISP and any network observer cannot see which domains you are looking up. DOH wraps queries inside ordinary HTTPS traffic on port 443, making them indistinguishable from web requests. Most modern browsers and operating systems now support both protocols natively. When you change a DNS record, the authoritative server updates instantly, but the rest of the internet does not know yet. Every resolver and browser holding a cached copy of the old record will keep using it until its TTL expires. With a TTL of 3600, that means up to 1 hour. The older records may have been cached with longer TTLs. Lowering your TTL before a planned change shrinks the propagation window significantly. Now that your browser has the IP address, it needs to open an actual connection. In the next episode, we dig into TCP, the protocol that breaks your data into packets, numbers every byte, and guarantees delivery across a network that was never designed to be reliable.